We didn't expect the turnout like this. Huge thanks to everybody who's been involved, all of our speakers earlier on. Really fantastic people. Lastly, I'd like to thank the person without whom none of this could have happened. This man's a tough man to kill. His do-or-die attitude to come back from betrayal and character destruction to lead us tonight is great, that we need on our side. And luckily we have it on our side. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause please for David Cole.
You know, I was actually going to dye my hair for tonight. I've been getting so old and doughy. My gosh, I look at pictures of me from 5 years ago. I actually still looked kind of human. And good God, what has happened to me? So I was actually going to dye my hair so that I would look halfway decent for all of you fine people, and then I just started drinking. I was like, oh, what the hell was I going to do? I don't remember. One lesson I've learned over the years is that when you are introducing a superstar like Ann Coulter, no one is there to hear you. And so I'm going to make this quick because Ann is a good friend of mine and someone who has been just supportive and a great, great friend. But more than that, Ann Coulter changes cultures. She changes the nation. The opportunity to introduce her is one of the greatest, maybe the greatest honor of my life. I can say that because I'm a 50-year-old heterosexual man who's never been married, doesn't have kids. So I can literally say, greatest honor of my life. Because if I had a wife, then the wife would be in there, you son of a, what about Paris? What about Paris? What about that night on the Zen? Oh, okay, yeah, sure, sweetie, that was the greatest honor of my life, man. But no, I don't got a wife, I don't have kids. So I can literally say in all honesty and all sincerity that introducing Ann Coulter is the greatest moment of my life and a tremendous, tremendous honor. I know that Ann Coulter needs no introduction. So why am I up here? I'm going to be up 1 minute, 60 seconds. I'm going to be, let me have my moment. I just want my moment. My moment, a little bit longer there. When people ask me, and they often do, like, what books do you consider essential for understanding politics and history? And I always give them a list of only two. There's two. There's one that was written in the late 30s called The Soviet Impact on Society by an author long dead named Dagobert Ruins. Now, that's a hell of a name. Dagobert Ruins. My gosh. And when are hipsters going to start to co-opt Dagobert? You know, they co-opt so many old-timey names. But Dagobert, and you can't say Dagobert, that's a hate crime. So Dagobert. And I say two books. Soviet Impact on Society by Dagobert Ruins and Treason by Ann Coulter. If you have never read Treason, if you don't own it, well, buy it. Buy it and read it, because the Dagobert Ruins book will explain how things are up until about 1939. Treason explains everything after that. It is an astoundingly good history lesson, and if you haven't read it, I absolutely recommend that you do. So you all are waiting for her. You want me to, with my gray hair, my pudgy, doughy countenance, you want my alcoholic ass off the stage, and you bet you're going to get that. Ladies and gentlemen, greatest honor of my life, Ann Coulter.
I've felt since I've been in Los Angeles. Seems to be an entire room of Proud Boys. I thought I'd talk a little bit about my new book, and thank you very much for your comments on treason, David. Demonic is also one you should all read, because we're living through it right now. It's about the mobs and groupthink. And actually what we're living through right now this week, with the violence coming allegedly from our side, we'll get to that in a moment. No, historically, violence, political violence, has always come from the left, going back to the French Revolution. That's the primogeniture of the left. Our founding event is the Declaration of Independence. We have very, chatty founding fathers. Every part of what we were doing, they're writing up. It's in Christian sermons. They release this. What is the Declaration of Independence? They're explaining to the world why we're separating, why we're going to fight this war. No, in France, they're just running around, skipping around with heads on pikes. It would be as if the Manson family took over a government, and we've continued to see this with the left. I mean, through Pol Pot, communism, Cuba, in this country, the Weathermen, SDS, the anti-war, all of the anti-war protests, the Earth First, the anti-globalism, I'm anti-globalism, but I don't smash a Starbucks window, but and all of those, like World, whatever it was, out in Seattle. And wow, like everything else, every crazy behavioral peculiarity of the left, it has just become magnified under Trump. But it's not working. Thus the title of my book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump Hating The main point of which, though you do have to read it, is the media are liars. We can't trust anything they say. If you see CNN, New York Times say something, your attitude should be prove it. Prove it. We believe nothing you say.
Yeah, exactly.
And after watching this for the past few years, I hope someone trademarks the phrase, "This is Trump's worst week ever." Because I really want to meet that man. He is loaded. He's tired, drinking pina coladas. One of the times I noticed it was with Stormy Daniels, or as I call her, Stormy Lewinsky. Headline on the New York Times, actual headline, Stormy Daniels, feminist hero. New York Times, could you try a little harder to be objective? The chapter 2 of my book is titled The Resistance Has Told Thousands of Lies About Trump. Here's one. And this is the one relevant to the lies they're telling right now that I think we're all kind of, we're disturbed just about that the violence or real violence today and last week, the attempted violence happened at all, but that this is being blamed on our side. We're not crazy, we're not violent. I think, and obviously Trump is worried. He's worried this is going to harm Republicans in the midterm elections for no reason. They weren't driving around in vans. They weren't striptease artists from Florida. Apparently that's the typical Trump supporter now. But one of the lies they told about Trump was with the Access Hollywood tape, the pussy grabbing tape. And at first, I was out here in LA when that broke. I was driving over to the Breitbart offices. We were chattering in the car. I didn't know what had happened. Went into the office, and Breitbart's COO, John Kahn, looked up. He was very depressed, but he's kind of a joker. He looked up and said, "Is it over?" And I said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And he told me the story. I didn't answer, but he told me I turned white. And we went to the next room and watched. They have like 6 TVs on the walls, and we're just watching on every flat screen TV. This being played over and over and over again. So I still didn't say anything, though I will admit I was a little depressed. By 7 p.m. that night, I thought, oh no, you have so blown it, media. You have so overplayed your hand. These are the people who are putting the most horrible filth on television, who will rush out to see Karen Finley spreading chocolate all over her body, playing the violin, and insist that we, the taxpayers, pay for it. And suddenly they're all fainting Victorian virgins So it was their overreaction that ended up saving us, and I think their overreaction to certainly the male bomber. All I've done is sleep and watch the Dodgers today, so I haven't really.
Yes, they're losing.
But that just happened 60 seconds ago.
I'm sorry I looked. I'm
Keep
sorry.
me updated. We all want to know.
9-6, 5-4.
Oh, this isn't looking good. Well, we may not be able to make the 18th inning tonight. So. The immediate reaction to the letter bombs that went out, which, by the way, I really do think is a form of performance art. So he's not a conservative. Our side doesn't like performance art. When you're sending a bunch of fake bombs that aren't going off, that is like Karen Finley. We don't rush out to do that kind of thing. But every place I look, I keep seeing angry white male, angry John Harwood, our friend from the New York Times in the CNBC debate with Trump. His tweet was, another angry white male. Well, I happened to look up his name. It is Cesar Altiera Sayoc. I think people who are busy with their lives, walking through CNN and just see Cesar Altiera Sayoc, are not going to be thinking angry white man. No, I think what we have is another problem of immigration. Which is to say, historically in America, political violence has come from the left. But lots of other countries, political violence is just part of daily life. And yeah, of course we're getting more political violence as we bring in people from countries where political violence is, the standard way to engage in politics. We don't do that because we have a democracy. We vote. We have tea parties. We petition our leaders. We write books. This is how we change what the country we're living in. I mean, unless you're liberals, then you try to get 5 justices on the Supreme Court to say, oh, look, we just discovered a right to abortion. But they're cheating because they're liberals. So we have yet another problem of immigration. Liberals always thought that all of the third world immigrants we were bringing in would be on their side. Great, they'll be at the barricades. They'll be protesting Kavanaugh. No, sorry, liberals. 20% are going to be on our side, and that's what we saw with the guy with the van in Florida. So I did come up with a great idea based on their reaction and thinking about this as a problem of immigration. I've noticed that with the caravan moving like a high-speed train to our borders, there are reports. There are MS-13 in the caravan. Liberals, Democrats say, we don't care. We're compassionate. We have to be tolerant and let them in. Terrorists in the caravan.
ISIS.
Nope. ISIS in the caravan. Yeah. Nope, we don't care. We have to be tolerant. However, if we tell them there are Trump supporters in the watching the media's discussion of our bomber friend Cesar Altiera Sayoc, the big debate on television is, will Trump finally apologize for this? And the debate is some people saying, yes, I think he will finally own up to it, and the other side saying, nope, he's not going to apologize. Those are the two sides. I think there's a problem when you have the Trump-hating Democrats debating with the never-Trumpers. That's considered the fair debate on television. I watch these. I'm a hate watcher, so I watch MSNBC. And I always feel like it should, Katie Tour, we need to go back to World War II and have Katie Tour interviewing Neville Chamberlain. Looks like a D-Day is coming. What do you say, Mr. Former Prime Minister? Well, I warned you. That Churchill's a warmonger. Why are they interviewing the never-Trumpers? They've been wrong about everything. My favorite program on MSNBC, which I think, is also on CNN and Fox. Comes on East Coast on 3 o'clock every day. It's where this wonderful woman, Sarah Saunders Huckabee, beats up Jim Acosta every day. I'm not really sure they're accomplishing anything that Anne has a good time, and I never miss them. But it's like a parlor game at a dinner party. Who can say the most outrageous thing about Donald Trump? Who can be the most vicious? And that's part of the requirement to be on MSNBC as a Republican. There are 3 requirements. One is you must, in some sense, have been a Republican at some time. You know, you work for Christy Todd Whitman. See, that's a Republican. You work for Christy Todd Whitman. Point 2, you have to be willing to say things far more vicious than even Rachel Maddow would say. I think it was Steve Schmidt who was he calling yesterday? Oh, it has to be Trump. Well, we're just seeing he's KKK, he's white supremacist. It's just completely crazy. And the third thing is you have to be physically repulsive. So that's 3 goals of MSNBC. You get a Republican, technically a Republican, attacking Trump, but they're displaying to their viewers, see, here is your typical, this is a Republican, this is what they look like, viewers. Steve Schmidt, Jennifer Rubin, may I introduce you to Rick Wilson.
Anna Navarro.
Spitting at the camera, Anna Navarro, absolutely. Which led me to one of my greatest ideas in Resistance is Futile, which is if we needed to collude with Russia, an insane idea, I'll get to that in a moment. You don't need to know who Bruce Orr is. Don't worry, it's simpler than that. If we need to do anything bad, we, by which I mean the Emperor God Trump, though I have a few complaints with him, he ought to just delegate Hope Hicks to do it. She's so hot, they could not cover her. Trump could send Hope Hicks to Putin with a suitcase full of money and instructions on how to hack the midterms, and the media couldn't cover it. They don't want people looking at Hope and thinking, yeah, that's a Trump voter. Yeah, do it. Let's see, I'm deciding what to skip here. I took notes on going through. A lot of the book, you have to see it, which is more of a visual gag. Luckily for all of you, I don't have a job and I can spend days and days on Nexus. That's one of the things. No, that's too. I'm just skipping that one. Okay, we'll jump straight ahead to their favorite argument against Trump and everyone in this room. Trump is a racist. Every 2 weeks, either David Leonard at the New York Times or the low testosterone boys at Vox are running another column. We have it, we've got the scientific proof, Trump is a racist. David Leonard ran, I forget the number, but it was something like 1,697 times that Trump did something racist. But you look at the examples, and don't keep bringing up the birther thing. We said that about John McCain. Was that racism? Please stop with that. But this is an old trick of the left. Again, like everything else, brought to Herculean heights under Trump, and that is large, meaningless numbers. They love throwing out large, meaningless numbers. Global warming, 3,000 scientists agree there's man-made global warming. And then, you look at the list a little more closely. Well, a lot of lawyers on that list. I'm not sure they're really scientists. But nobody cares what the number is. Give us the evidence. Give us the proof. I mean, to say... Lawrence O'Donnell and Chris Hayes all agree. No, we want to see the evidence. I was on TV the other night after the Dodgers game. After the post game, it would have been like a really huge TV game. You would have all seen it. A big star. But by the time the game was over and then the post game was over, apparently my segment on the issues on local Fox came on at 5 in the morning. So I'll just get to the highlight. The Liberal was saying, I forget how many, but it was something like 3,000 X number of economists say that immigrants from Latin America are good for the economy.
All right.
So dumping millions of culturally backwards, illiterate in their own language peasants on our country while handing them their welfare forms. That's good for the economy. I'm sorry. I don't care how many economists you got there. They seem to be the same people on the global warming list. Okay, this is what I want to tell you about Russia. This is the one book you can read about Russia you don't need to know, Bruce or the details. I mean, some of it's fun, but most of it isn't. My book, I think, makes it fun and also takes more a sweeping approach. The one thing that I had trouble moving past since the whole Russia story began was, where were you guys during the Cold War? We really could have used you. As David mentioned, one of my favorite books, Treason, which goes through Joe McCarthy and Alger Hiss and the whole period. Can we finally get liberals to admit Alger Hiss was guilty now? Is that what this Russia stuff means? We can at least get that out. What I remember was when Stalin was engaging in show trials and murdering innocent people, the Soviets were shooting down our planes, invading other countries, slaughtering their own people right and left and trying to influence the American government in quite aggressive ways. I kept being told, we need to have a mature relationship with other countries. Jimmy Carter warned Americans not to have an inordinate fear of communism. There was a Dr. Seuss book about two little characters who, the only difference between the Soviet Union and America is we butter our bread on different sides. And, we're going to go to war. It wasn't a bestseller, but as I pointed out in Treason, for the really preposterous liberal books that are never going to be bestsellers, the New York Times gives them a little bump by just having special New York Times recommended book. That was the Dr. Seuss book, telling small children that the difference in the evil empire and the United States of America was that we butter our bread on the wrong sides. But now that Russia is just, an ordinarily corrupt country, probably less corrupt than, Greece, China, certainly Saudi Arabia, our dear ally. No, now they want to go to war with Russia. Wow, we could have used you guys during the Cold War. Here's one of the advantages of no job again, days and days on Nexus. I was wondering where this whole Russia thing came from, so I did get to the bottom of it on Nexus, and there is an interesting little twist to it. Okay, who first raised the idea that Putin was trying to get Trump elected? It was right after the second tranche of Democratic emails were put on WikiLeaks. The Democrats, and there was a lot of reporting at the time, Politico, the Atlantic magazine, the Democrats were going absolutely wild. They were terrified about what might come out. So Nancy Pelosi is on a conference call with Democratic leaders and senators. The senators are terrified because they don't know what they've emailed to the DNC. Right. That could come out now. They're furious with the DNC, furious with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They come up with the idea, number one, we're going to blame the Russians. Number two, we're going to put out the idea that the Russians might have not only hacked the emails, but changed their content. So you can't believe what's in the emails. Okay, the media is kind of gaffing on this. It's not a very big story. This is Hillary's modus operandi. She's caught in a scandal. She accuses someone else of committing a crime. It was Robbie Mook who launched it at the Democratic National Convention. Now, this was the interesting thing I found, not having a job and reading many years of New York Times since Trump first came on the scene. When Robbie Mook first told George Stephanopoulos, experts are telling us that the Russians are behind this hack, the New York Times, David Sanger, and Nicole Perlmuth wrote an article ridiculing Robbie Mook for this. And the sentence was something like, even in the darkest days of the Cold War, no presidential candidate ever accused another candidate of conspiring with an enemy power. The rest of the media then helped Hillary out by not really talking about her crazy conspiracy theory. I'd find it in Nexus on my page, a little blurb item on page A18. All of the media was embarrassed by this until Hillary lost. And then suddenly they go back and think, maybe that wasn't such a crazy theory after all. I mean, the evidence on that is stark and I think quite hilarious. It's good we found out a lot more about the FBI. We're getting to the point where it would be redundant to disband the FBI. But the good news is, the last time the FBI tried to take out a newly ensconced leader, it was with Fidel Castro, the longest-serving head of state in history. So I wouldn't worry too much about what the FBI is doing with Trump. I mean, Robert Mueller has gone absolutely mad. He's a lunatic. These indictments, since I have a Hollywood crowd here, have you ever seen the movie Forget Paris with Billy Crystal?
Yes.
His girlfriend breaks up with him and he's coaching a softball game and he just starts fouling everyone because he's pissed off. That is Robert Mueller right now. We can't find anything on Trump. So, that's it. We're going after Papadopoulos. We're going to get every Trump supporter for jaywalking. But if we're worried about Soviet influence on our country, you'd be hard-pressed to do better than the Office of the Special Counsel. I mean, this guy has limitless money, and his commissioning letter from Rod Rosenstein might as well have said, this guy, Trump, seems icky. Why don't you look around? Surely there's something there. Well, okay, but there are a lot of people you could say that about. Could we have a special counsel on George Soros? Skip ahead to the end. Which is very much like the beginning. And then if I have time, I'd love to take some questions. And that is, for democracy to live, we do have to kill the media. I've been very... If you follow me assiduously on Twitter, you know I've been very testy with the Emperor God for a little absence of a wall. I've suspended my daily border wall updates, at least until the midterm elections are over, but whatever day the election is, next day, I'm going right back to it. So I'm starting to think that, the truths this guy accidentally stumbled upon are still truths. This is what we're fighting for. Even if we don't get those things out of him, the one thing he may end up accomplishing is killing the media. This is old news for people, I think, in this room, certainly for me. I feel like the media is like a mob hitman who's been hiding out in the witness protection program. He's hiding out in Iowa under a fake name for 30 years, and finally he decides he's safe, and screw it, I'm running for Congress under my own name. Bam, dead. That's what the media has been. They've been hiding out in Iowa under a fake name, but now they've exposed what they really are. When Trump came along, they just decided, okay, we'll win them back, but we are not going to be fair at all. We are not going to even pretend to be objective. It is pedal to the metal to stop Trump. And they've exposed what they have always been, a mob hitman. Issues and the issues Trump raised during the campaign, I remain 100% committed to that campaign. I would not do one thing different, as angry as I am at him now for dropping the ball on the big immigration promise, our big campaign promise. But, I would have done everything the same. I would have written in Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. What choice did we have? We had Trump, and we had 17 lunatics running around with men chasing them with nets. He was the first one in 20 years to raise the issues I wanted raised. I just want to remember that. So, maybe we can smuggle a copy of President Trump we trust into the White House. I think it would be very helpful for our commander-in-chief to read it and remember that campaign. If not, the one thing we could get out of this guy is a destruction of the media. I compare it in my book to chemotherapy. It's a terrible thing. You're sick, you throw up, you vomit, you lose your hair, but it kills the cancer cells and you live. So Trump could be, we vomit, our hair falls out, but the entire New York Times editorial board dies.
Yes.
I have a question.
Connor, where are you? My assistant there, Connor. Is he around here?
Your speech was longer than mine, Connor. Come back.
Yeah. Okay. Connor. Okay. I will then, because Connor's not here. I do it. Raise your hand. I will come to you. How many questions you want to take?
It's up to you. Whenever
All
you're
right.
bored.
Well, look. Let's keep it reasonable, people, because she's got books to sign. Your books to sign. And so I'm going to go around, raise your hand. I'll pick you one at a time. So, okay.
It's 9 to 4, by the way, bottom of the night.
It's what?
9 to 4.
Red Sox?
Yeah.
Oh.
You are so lucky you're here tonight. Thank you.
Oh,
Damn, this one sucks.
Connor, I'm going to trust you. People have their hands up. You just go and you pick them, and we take as many questions as
I'm going to take 6 questions in that amount of time. Go.
Okay, so my question is this. It has to do not just with the caravan, but the endless caravan that's been happening for decades. So here in California, we have an endless drought. If it ever goes away, it's for like a few days. So we don't have enough water. They're rationing water. We have thousands of wildlife species and plants that are endangered or extinct because of human encroachment. We've got endless sprawl. This is all science. Why aren't people on our side using these scientific reasons in addition to the others as to why we don't need more people here, legal or illegal or whatever? We are way past human carrying capacity.
Right. She's raising the scientific point on the environment. We're learning about the That's one of the chapters in my excellent book, Adios America. The environmental problems with this endless people are my favorite memes on Twitter, and I know memes are like hate speech now, but they're really just and it's like a picture of the United States of America, and it says, well, except spelled out, F off, we're full. And I just like that. And you know, as with caravans, that's why we wanted a wall. We didn't want to have to go through this every 3 months for the rest of our lives. That's why we wanted a wall.
Yeah.
I'm a scientist. I can answer the question to the lady.
Pardon me?
He's a scientist. I'm a scientist.
No, that man is asking a question and is calling on people.
From your sports writer perspective, what do you think the odds are that the GOP holds the House, and if a follow-up after that, that the GOP has a more populist bent after this election day?
That's a great question. Well, the odds, obviously, on the midterm and the Republican having a more populist bent. Why haven't they picked up on that miraculous Trump campaign? I thought the night of the election.
Hey.
Now I'm going to have to shout, Connor. Okay, I'm not waiting.
I think we just lost some sound here.
Do you have any working mics? Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. Okay, work on the mic and I'll just speak loudly.
Yeah.
I thought election night, when we were all cheering, there would be, if you were, you can't hear me.
No, we can't.
I can hear you. Okay. I thought there would be large trucks of Depends being delivered to Washington, D.C. as elected Republicans realized, oh, is it working now? Was that? Oh, thank you. Excellent. As Republicans realized, oh my gosh, the voters hate us. But no, that isn't how they reacted at all. And unfortunately, Trump hasn't really pushed through his populist agenda. He's gone back to Same old Republican agenda. And don't get me wrong, I love tax cuts. But it's not exactly like when Reagan was cutting taxes and the top rate was 90%. When you do that, of course that is going to hugely jumpstart the economy. Now we have half the country.
Turn that other mic off. Helicopter.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Can someone take this from me? No one was cheering at Trump rallies, cut taxes. Half the country doesn't pay taxes. You're talking about a difference, but I think you should turn that off.
Come on, John.
A difference in a tax rate of 40% or 39%, whatever. That isn't what he ran on. He ran on something we've been wanting for 30 years: deporting illegals and building a wall. Took him 500 days to end the trade deals. So what I'm hoping for the midterms, well, I can't say I'm hoping for Republicans to lose the House by 1 seat, but I can see an upside to that. No, it's never good for Republicans not to have a majority. Democrats are very, very bad. Bad things happen. For one thing, they're going to shut down all these investigations that actually are kind of useful. Papadopoulos is going to be screwed. Roger Stone is going to be screwed. Now, Trump won't be impeached if we hold the Senate, and I do think we're going to hold the Senate. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the next 10 days. We might even pick up a few seats in the Senate, which would be fantastic. In the House, I just hope we lose all of the open borders Republicans. Because we could lose 23 and still have a majority. And I have my eye on a few of them. If we do lose the House, I mean, the upside will be, but this is not a good reason, do not vote for any Democrats for Congress. The upside will be, I think, Trump will win even bigger in 2020 because all of the Democrats do endless stupid investigations that will drive the American people crazy. They won't be able to remove him from office. And if you look at who the committee heads will be, if Democrats take the House, it's hilarious. So those are the silver linings. Johnson?
What should we do about the tech companies screwing us?
Excellent question coming from one of the first people thrown off Twitter. All of my favorite people keep getting thrown off Twitter for being funny. I think what needs to be done is have the First Amendment apply to them. Conservatives understandably get concerned when you talk about regulating anything. And you think, well, it won't always be Trump, and we don't want somebody else coming in and regulating these tech companies. But I think it's just enough to say you're a public square, you're controlling how people can talk. I mean, it would be like phone companies taking phones away if you were a Republican or if they thought your jokes weren't funny. We already have a complete body of law around the First Amendment. And no one who has been thrown off Facebook or Twitter has violated First Amendment law or is not protected by First Amendment law. I really think that's the way to go. Exactly how to do it, whether it's a court case or Congress passes a law, I'm not sure. But that's the ultimate outcome I think we want.
Do you think Trump wants to...
I don't know. One and then the next.
Together.
You are both so enthusiastic.
Yes, you are.
She goes first.
Do you think Trump will actually get the wall built?
I'm doing my part. Do I think Trump will actually get the wall built? You know, some people get a little testy with me for haranguing him about it. But I went to a big immigration thing in Washington about a month ago. This is the off-the-record table. Ran into a lot of the angel moms, a lot of sheriffs, people who care about immigration, and they were all thanking me for the border wall updates and staying on this guy's tail. And they said, we don't want to do it because we want to maintain our access. But somebody's got to keep reminding him. And at least thus far, I've gotten a little rough with him on Twitter. And I'm one of the very few people he follows on Twitter. I was out with a reporter one time, and he wanted to, something breaking news. He said, oh, check Twitter. And I said, I can't because I'm afraid the president may have unfollowed me because I've been a little testy with him today. And my friend, he writes for the New York Times, That's a fine fellow. A little liar. He said, Ann, if Trump follows you, I'd be getting an alert on my iPhone. So I guess luckily he knows people will notice if he unfollows me. But I mean, I think the truth is, he's got to know I have his best interest in mind. Right. I'm his biggest supporter when he does the right thing. Exactly. I defend him on Charlottesville. Heaven to the medal. That's one of the greatest things I think he ever did. And there's a chapter on Charlottesville in my book. Oh, one thing I just want to say about that chapter and Charlottesville. I mean, history has proved that Trump was right. There were good people on both sides. Why were there bad people on both sides? Every place I go, we have to have the Proud Boys protecting me from Antifa, these masked lunatics who are beating up girls and civilized people. Obviously, there were some people who were showing up because they don't want their Confederate monuments being toned down.
Exactly.
And that I will connect to news this week, and that's Megyn Kelly. The hateful thing about political correctness and the hateful thing about the Soviet Union, it's not just that they kill you, it's that they will force you to humiliate yourself first. They will force you to apologize. They will force, I tweeted out that the sentence was predetermined. Why grovel? Go out with a bang.
Exactly.
Stand. And they want to force us to say, there are more than two genders. It's just, they just want to humiliate us by making us say things that we know aren't true, they know aren't true, and they know we know aren't true. It's a sadistic pleasure they take, and that's what they were doing at Charlottesville. They wanted to force Trump to apologize, and it drove them crazy. He had nothing to apologize for, and he didn't apologize.
Don't forget me. So I know George Soros is involved in so much stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I do my own research, and I looked at voter fraud, and then there's like some kind of organization, and I look it up on Wikipedia, and of course, the biggest funder of it is George Soros.
Right.
And I know that he's been like banned for his so-called philanthropy in other countries. Why haven't we done this in our country?
That's a great question. I have a really beautiful little section on George Soros in Resistance is Futile.
I bought your book.
Carefully footnoted.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of stuff. I don't know if you've heard this, but there's some nuts on the internet. And you can't believe everything I have, and it's pretty stunning. I mean, he is a monster. It's under the section Payback's a Bitch, because what's he been doing? Running around, stirring up trouble, overthrowing elections in all of these former Soviet satellite states. They're right on Russia's border, and, you know, putting in place just because they had an election and they chose a leader that was displeasing to George Soros, so he thinks he can spend his money doing a lot of the same things they're doing with the 2016 election. Actually, they do with every election. He has fake poll watchers, fake student protesters, and yeah, he's been thrown out of country after country after country. Unfortunately, I did look this up, and I'm sorry to report he is an American citizen.
But still, they can't ban certain.
No, we can't throw out American citizens. Unless we can find he lied on his immigration form. Wait, no, over there. And then I'll go back to you, sorry.
Bill Clinton appointed Michael Powell to the FCC to destroy the Federal Communications Commission, to bring a universal thought. I've testified 5 different times in front of the FCC. Do you think now that we need to really look at it, because it's 5 commissioners appointed by the President of the United States, we need to really revamp the FCC, no different from the Radio Commission to the FCC in 1934, that we need to bring back universal thought?
Fuck yes.
Yes.
I don't know what you just said, but I agree with it.
They follow it back, and they follow it great again. Yeah,
that's a good question, and you know, I will always warn you, a bad Republican is better than the best Democrat. There are a lot of bad Republicans. There are no good Democrats. So, I mean, we do have I think it's 22-seat majority in the House now. So we could shed ourselves of 21 of them. But you can't always pick them. I suspect they're going to be the ones to go. Calling really does make a difference. I think people don't realize this. You feel like your voice isn't worth much, and it is true with a lot of these guys. They're scum. It's whatever the donors want. It's whatever the Chamber of Commerce wants. But I worked in the Senate, and I have to tell you, phone calls and letters and postcards, if they're from you and not like pre-printed stuff, that makes a huge difference.
Really?
A huge difference. It really does. Phyllis Schlafly would shut down stuff all the time because she put out in her Eagle Forum newsletter. She was so powerful. She'd describe, and she had a beautiful way of describing things, and she'd get all of her newsletter readers opposed to it. Yeah. There was one, UN Rights of the Child, which was, communist, idiotic. God bless you, Phyllis Schlafly. But it went through the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, so whose desk did it land on? Jesse Helms. He got it, he put it in his inbox where it would have remained, gathering cobwebs for 20 years. There was no way any senator was voting for that because of all the postcards and letters that came in opposing the UN Rights on the Child Treaty. So it really does make a difference.
Hi, big man. That thing about Phyllis Schlafly, I remember the liberals were rejoicing over her passing, which I thought was so vicious and wrong. But my question is about the debates I'm watching before I go to bed at night. I'm watching all the debates around the country. And one poignant one is the Gillum-DeSantis debate in Florida. Mm-hmm. Gillum lied like a rug, and there's no follow-up. And there's absolutely no follow-up in a lot of these debates.